screen.
It's very sad.
We're missing a few back there with you.
We miss him.
Peter?
Yeah, Peter will be here. He was at the game with me.
All right. Is he playing or
No,
officiating?
no. No, he's all dressed up for Valentine's Day.
Really?
He's got his suit on with
Too
his
much
red tie.
information.
We're on, but Comcast is frozen for some reason.
Okay. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, February 14th, 2013. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. So first up on is the consent agenda, but just so everyone that pays attention at home knows, I read the consent agenda at the last meeting and I shouldn't have, because we didn't have all the information in front of us. So this is the same consent agenda that I read last time.
Okay.
So first up is a consent agenda, and the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented, which includes regular session minutes of January 10th, 2013, January 24th, 2013, public relation minutes of December 19th, 2012, and January 25th, 2013, safety minutes of January 10th, 2013, budget and finance minutes of January 22nd, 2013, February 6th, 2013, governance minutes of January 18th, 2013, governance minutes of February 1st, 2013, as well as warrants 29V13, 31V13, 33V13, 28P13, 30P13, and 32P13.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, our student rep Cole.
Right. Well, last weekend we just had the high school musical, which was it. We had a little problem with the weather, but it really was a very great show, and I'm really
Yes, it
glad to be
was.
part of that.
Yeah.
So it was.
Well, you did a great job. Cole had a
Thank you.
really major part.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Did an excellent job.
And I know senior night for basketball is this night
Yeah, I saw
tonight,
that,
and
yeah.
I know everyone's. I don't. Do you guys know if they're going to playoffs?
They will not.
they will
Their
not.
last game, I think, is Monday night.
Okay. All right. Well,
And we
make sure
know
that
they're
they-
not
The girl-
going?
that we know they aren't, but we know that we believe the girls are.
Varsity?
Good.
Right.
Awesome. And do you know if the hockey team is going?
I don't believe so,
No,
but I don't
okay.
know. I don't know.
Okay.
So we'll clarify that because I don't
Okay.
want to say no and find out that
Yeah. And
we're a hockey team.
let's see. What else? Oh, like I just was saying before the meeting, the middle school play is starting up, and auditions will be the Monday right after vacation, which is the 25th of February. And so either we might have signups on Miss Donovan's door, or we might just have people show up if they want to show up, and that'll be right after school. So we're hoping to get a lot of people for that. And let's see.
Why don't you
That's-
tell people what the play is? Can you do that? Is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's a modern version of Romeo and Juliet, and it is called Roy and Julie, and it was written by one of my good friends, Mary Beth LaPlaca, who is also the director, and I'm the assistant director.
She's a
So,
student at the school.
Yeah, it's all student run, and the advisor is Miss Donovan.
Mhm.
So, and everyone else is going to be a student. So I'm hoping it's as good as last year, because I know last year
Oh, it was great.
I was going to say last year was the first year that you did it,
Mhm.
and it was fantastic. It was amazing what
Yeah.
they were able to do, and so inclusive of everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was written for 20 people, but
Yeah, it was written for
60
some
something
odd.
people were able
They
to be
had-
accommodated.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was, they had to write in like, I think at least 40 parts.
Yeah.
So, which is great.
A small task.
But,
And
no, I'm
done
really-
within a very short time frame. It was like
It was a
month
month.
to a 6-week
Yep.
time frame, which sounds like the same.
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
you're
I
doing
mean,
this
because
year.
it's not a musical, it's not as hard to put on. You don't have to practice music or anything, which is, I mean, why the season for Guys and Dolls was from November to February, because you have to add music into that. So, but I'm expecting a very great show. So I'm very excited. And I think that's it.
Start of the third quarter?
Yeah, that's, it'll be.
Yeah. Starting now, right? Because report
This
cards
week?
came home last week?
Already.
Yes,
Yes,
yep.
and
yep.
the spring sports sign-ups start on Monday.
Start on
That's
Monday,
what I-
okay.
Monday
read.
after
Vacation.
vacation. Okay.
And I would just mention, the only thing I would also mention to support what Cole's saying is David Ingraham scored his 100th point in wrestling, which is the big accomplishments, like 1,000 points in basketball, you know?
That's
So, very exciting. In fact, I spoke to him today because he and the coach are gonna be interviewed on Beverly Enos's Spotlight Georgetown.
That's
I wanted to make
great.
sure he was willing to do it, and he was cute. He said, "Do you know who you're talking to?" I knew of course, I'd be fine in front of the camera, and he's right. He would
Oh,
be.
re-
So I'm very excited to have David have that opportunity and to see the public. And the wrestling program's come so far. The coach has done a phenomenal job, and it's a nice opportunity to promote the program, as well as Anthony Messina, our band director, is also going to be interviewed by Beverly. So I really appreciate the fact that she's always so willing to feature things that are going on in the schools, and she writes to me every month and says anything you'd like me to feature, and so we really appreciate that, because it is a great way for the public who watches that show to learn more about the schools, and it's good positive public relations for sure.
Absolutely. It's terrific.
All right. Moving right along to audiences. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on an agenda item this evening?
That's not on the agenda.
Or that's on the agenda? All right. Well, don't everyone run at once. So we'll move right along to administrative reports. First up is the superintendent's report,
Right.
which is the beginning of our budget
Yes,
presentation.
it is. So you all have a budget binder, and it is, again, slightly different than what you're used to. However, I think thanks to a lot of hard work on Joan's part and Laura in assembling it, I think that it's laid out in a way that I think is very easy to follow. You may agree or not, but we'll find that out as the process unfolds. So, obviously it starts with, the cover page, and what we've done is labeled each section, so you have a tab, and you can tell from the front page here what that involves. So the first, tab A, is the letter I write every year. And for the public's benefit, basically what we're presenting is the superintendent's recommended budget. Ultimately, what you will present, for those of you that are new with the budget process, to the FinCom will be the school committee's recommended budget after you have a chance to deliberate this budget. So the budget request is $13,189,893, which is $579,467, or 4.6% over FY13. The administrative team and I are obviously, as a school committee, very mindful of the fact that the schools have been very fortunate to have received a lot of financial support from the town in the last couple of years, with our Proposition 2.5 override, which really allowed us to catch our breath and to maintain and add some critical programs. And I think you'll see, while this budget goes up very little in terms of salaries and non-salary expenses, the fact that we aren't talking about cutting, large numbers of positions is testimony to the fact that the override allowed us to be able to, like I said, catch our breath. In addition to that, obviously, we have the Pembroke School project coming online, and that was a very generous vote for the town. So we're mindful that the taxpayers have received some significant increases in their taxes, and so our attempt here, in working with the town administrator and some directions we received from the Finance Advisory Board through the town administrator, was to stay at a 2.5% increase or below. That was our intention, and we accomplished that clearly with our salary increases and our non-salary increases. The challenge, of course, is the special education tuition and transportation. That is why it goes up, as opposed to 2.58, it goes up 4.6, because there is an additional almost $250,000 that needs to be done. How we build the special ed budget, for the benefit of the committee as well as the public, is that we look at every individual student that we have. We look at the schools they go to, we look at the tuition. We do build a small increase into the tuition cost for tuition and transportation. You'll see in the assumptions here that that's a 4% increase. The reality is that there are schools who do get an increase approved by the state that is much higher than 4%, but that's what we budget is 4%. We're fortunate, again, the town supported us with a $250,000 allocation in this budget to deal with this year's special education costs, but because it's coming from free cash, it's not a guarantee that it's in the base of our upcoming budget, yet the expenses are recurring.
Right.
So we need to be in the process of discussing that with the town and the FinCom when we have that chance. And, you know, we had a conversation at the last school committee meeting, so you're well aware of how that all works. But it details that a little bit in the letter. Also, I do mention in here that the $250,000 is also a kind of a number that keeps recurring. And if you recall, last year we had 7 aides, special education aides, in a grant that we were moving to the budget when our budget got cut by $168,000.
Right.
The positions remained in the budget, and we had to do some redirection.
Right.
So that 168 was still money we needed. And then in addition to that, due to some, I'm not sure exactly why it happened, but the amount of money we had budgeted for utilities was not consistent with what the town administrator took from the budget to, because remember, the town handles utilities now.
Right, yes.
So there was a $92,000 difference for some reason. Yet at the same time, we built the budget off of a figure that was $92,000 different than what ultimately was approved by the town. So if you sort of add those and estimate those together, that $250,000 still plagues us. And if that $250 was in the budget, we would be right at the 2.5%.
2.5%, right, right.
But, you know,
That's our
we're
goal
just,
is
you know, in the interest of
2.5%, but
transparency, that's part of,
It's important to explain that.
yeah,
Yes.
those things did not, the cost of those
Make
items
that
did not
clear.
go away.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, our budget was what it ended up being, and that was not in the budget.
And the important thing with the aid positions is because of the nature of the position, we couldn't just eliminate
Of course, yes.
that position because we're required to provide a certain level of services, and
Right.
by reducing those, we wouldn't be in compliance with our obligations.
That's right.
So, you know, certainly personally, you know, I always want to thank the administrative team. You know, they sit with their department heads and their staff, and then what they know about their own schools and the school improvement plans. And, you know, every year they try really hard to advocate for what is most essential, understanding that certainly there are things that they would like to add that we would love to have, but and the reality is we were trying to stick with the 2.5%. So I think they did a yeoman's job coming up with a budget that can work within those means. And Joan, I think, did a fabulous job breaking down the budget in a way that I think is very transparent and explains very clearly where and what money is in what lines. So having said that, we'll go to tab B very quickly. This is the budget calendar. Just would point out that, remember, we are meeting on the first half of the budget tonight. We have, the second half of the budget is on the 28th, and then you added another meeting for the 7th. And the purpose of that meeting will be the public hearing, and that'll be your final adoption of the budget. And then we have to go to FinCom on the 20th of March. Okay? Just moving, you know, forward. Obviously, the budget is not an end, but it's a way to achieve our goals. So what we do is we look at our goals first, decide what we have to do, build a budget that
Around.
allows us to reach those goals. So included under tab C is our mission statement, which we're always trying to keep ourselves mindful of, and our 3-year goals for improvement. So that's in this budget for everybody's constant information and recall.
Well, it comes right back to the strategic plan that we review at the beginning of the year. So there's a
Right.
process to the time and the manner in which we review things. So then it all kind of flows together, and
Right, so
we provide the resources to get the district to the point that we outline in our strategic plan.
That's right.
exactly, yes.
Okay, then
Or
we
we try to
makes
provide the
sense.
resources.
we
Yes.
go to
We attempt
tab D. So every time you build a budget, and this is part of this is, I know the Public Relations and Budget and Finance Group really wanted to try to do what we could to make the budget process a little clear to people who are interested in learning more about it. So one of the things we do is we always start, when we build the budget, around a basic set of assumptions. So the basic assumptions here, you know, are basically that we first, when we build the budget, the first thing we do is we put in salaries that we know have been already negotiated. So that's the first thing you do. We don't say, oh, well, we don't have enough money to fund all the salaries, so we're not going to pay people. You know, if the first priority is it's a people business, and so we have to put
That's
the
right.
negotiated
It's a
salaries in
service.
first. And in situations where we haven't completed negotiations, we do have to allocate amount of money in a reserve account, so that when those contracts are negotiated, we have the ability to do the raises.
Right.
Otherwise, what would happen is, obviously, you would negotiate after the fact, and then you wouldn't have the money, and you'd have to cut things in order to make the money up. So it's
Right.
not a good idea strategically. It's always best to build the budget with the salaries in mind first.
Absolutely.
Just another assumption here that we always think is important to not point, just to point out to the committee, but also to the public, is that we don't put, all of our salaries do not fit in the budget. So there are some salaries, which when we get to the revolving account sections, you'll be able to see those and the grants. We do use some federal grants, and we do use some revolving accounts to fund some of the salaries. So when we build the budget, we know which will fit and which will not, and which is an appropriate use of other sources. So the assumption is that everything isn't included, and we will be using other sources. We we take special ed tuition and transportation. We budget the 4% increase, and we look at what is in place. Every year we question that strategy, because it's often the case, I think it would be the case most years, where there would be an additional placement or two that occurs. And generally, school budgets will build in a contingency for something like that. If it's not used, fine, it just goes right into the overall, you know, just doesn't get spent, right? But in this case, sorry, my phone is buzzing here. In this case, what we always do, because we don't have the money to expend on a reserve account, we only budget in these budgets for what we know. Now, sometimes we can use circuit breaker, because that's a reimbursement, as you know, from the following year, but sometimes we have to apply all of our circuit breaker. So it's always a risky business, and I know when we met with the Board of Selectmen, they said, gee, we're kind of concerned that we don't budget that account correctly every year. We are too, but it's the difference between putting money aside in an account and cutting other things to get to a certain
a
level.
service to
The
get.
bottom line is the
Right.
bottom line, and we prefer to say, we want to put our money into the resources that we know we need.
Right.
And if something comes up, well, then we have to redirect. But, you know, in the event that it doesn't, we don't want to be setting money aside and having to reduce
And you
resources.
can watch over time to make sure that
That's right.
strategy is working well for everyone and
Right.
serving our.
Right.
And what we do is we look in every line, we
Everybody's
look at
interests.
multiple year history. So when we're trying to when the principals are trying to decide how much money would go into a particular line, if over the average over the last 3 years is a certain amount, then we'll go with that if we don't know what the exact
Right.
amount will be. But we don't just pick numbers out of the air. We do it in a very
Based
strategic
on history.
history of spending, right. Non-salary lines, which is everything but a salary line, are level funded or slightly below. And this is where I really appreciate the way the principals they dig deep, because, you know, what they'll do is they'll look at what's essential in certain lines, and they'll just look at what they spent last year. Maybe they don't spend everything, you'll see some places where things moved, but the bottom line stayed the same.
Right.
Okay, because they had to really look at what do we really know we need most.
Right.
And in some cases, they reduced other lines because other lines were more important.
Right, I was
There's a
looking at
process
some
of
of
setting
the-
priorities, and if you have questions for them, they can explain to you the process that they follow if you have questions about that. No increases to athletics included in this budget. Now, next week, you're going to have a chance to review couple of recommendations, but probably the recommendation that we're going to make on how we can work on trying to get the athletic program sustainable. and able to work within not only the budget, but for now, but for maybe some future years. The Budget and Finance Subcommittee met with, Joan and I and Chris DeFranco, the athletic director. We asked him to go back and think about a couple other things, which he has done, and we have another meeting scheduled to go over those. So we'll have had a chance to talk that through, and then we'll have a chance to talk with you about that in the next meeting. But there's no additional athletic budgets or expenses in this budget. What was in it last year is in it again, which is about $68,000. And if obviously we're gonna have to look at increasing user fees potentially. If we wanna add more money to the budget, again, that's always the prerogative of the school committee and their deliberations. But we just have to figure out how much, does something else have to get cut, how does that all work?
Right.
But for the superintendent's recommended budget, we're not recommending additional money being placed in the budget for this year. And, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I don't think we're at the point where we want to add new programs. I think we feel that the programs we've added are good, and we want to continue to implement them. So they're not necessarily requiring new things. Like, we're not buying a new math program, for example. And the principals have budgeted, if they're adding a new textbook or something, they've budgeted appropriately in their budget for that. But the one thing it doesn't, and Peter will probably get a chance to explain this a little more, but Peter was hoping that he could start a lease to do an upgrade on some computers in, I think it was a lab, right, Peter? And we made the decision in this budget not to include it.
Right.
Kind of anticipating that remember we have leases in choice, and those go away next year. So we were kind of thinking if Peter could manage for one more year, that maybe that's something that the choice budget could handle next year.
Saw in the subcommittee
but
meetings, there's a
yeah.
long list of priorities of things
Right.
that we can't.
Yeah, and there, obviously with the Pembroke project and the maybe upcoming renovations to the middle high school that, we have to continue to discuss, there's gonna be some upgrades on technology as
So
well.
Yeah, the things that we're not funding, we can keep in mind.
Well, we will
We
never
will
forget
keep in
them.
mind.
Technology's been on our mind for a very, very long time. But with the new Pembroke project, there's a nice upgrade of technology will happen for now the whole elementary population. And I know that Mike Farrell has been working on a town strategy for technology, and I know he's doing an IT audit right now. And depending on how they decide to work on that, there may be a process by which there's an ongoing replacement of equipment that's all part of that process. But because that's not done, we're having to build a budget now.
Right.
But I'm anticipating that we should be able to
It's a
dovetail
possibility
with
for the
that.
future. Then.
So I think that's a good thing for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, we love graphics, so there's a
do.
pie chart here. And this is a breakdown of all of the major categories. And you can see that in the red section, that's instruction, very big piece of the puzzle. The purple one is special education, another big piece of the puzzle. The following page, and this I thought was something Joan said, oh, we have something to help with that. Administration, people will say like, well, what's in administration? Is that the superintendent's salary? Is that what is that? So if you look on the page behind it, you'll notice under the heading administration, it tells you exactly what went into the calculations for that category, and that's obviously translates into the percentage of the budget that's in the nice pie graph.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
Okay, so that I think is a huge help. Okay, so if anybody, when we post this online, or if anybody'd like a copy of this, they can see exactly what's charged to each piece of the puzzle.
Special ed is not circuit breaker is not netted out of that. That's a gross number, right?
No, circuit breaker is for the tuition. It's already out.
It's out, tuition out is net of circuit breaker?
Correct.
Okay. So now that's kind of interesting. If you look at, it represents 25% of our total budget, and I don't want to say it's understated, but you could argue that it is understated because we have another Sizable amount.
Yeah,
Right,
we're
'cause you're over
subsidizing
you're
it.
over $1 million for that line, and
for tuition out.
right, you can
yeah.
see right here it's 759.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's even higher.
Yeah.
Right, that's what she's saying, it's
Yeah. So it's
underreported.
I
Right,
mean,
but-
I understand it's not in the aggregate, but when you're looking at the pieces
Right.
and you look at our total expenditures, 25% is a large number, but it is
Really
even
more.
larger.
Right.
Right.
Carol, I wish I had thought of this
Yeah.
before, but it's not a big deal. If they get black and white copies of this, if people are looking for black and white copies,
Sure.
the
They
pie
won't-
chart.
Yeah, they won't see them, right.
Yeah, So
Yeah.
if you just put the 50% beside the.
Yeah,
letters.
we can do that. Good idea. Okay, so as you see, we're working again from big to small, right? So we've just been in the big area, and now we're looking at a chart. The next page is one you've seen before. So, you know, we can certainly answer any questions, but I think we reviewed it the last time, which is the overall budget is in the top table. Then it breaks down to salaries, non-salaries, and then you can see special education, tuition, and transportation.
That's great.
Okay, so moving on to tab E. Okay, so here's what, it's called administration, but I call it the district lines. So just, I think as you've had a chance to review this, you've seen that the structure here is there's a little blurb at the top. And in this case of the schools, there's actually some enrollment information there. And then you see the actual munis account. When Dr. Pacone did it last year, he did it in broad categories. He didn't give us the munis accounts. That required a crosswalk. Because Joan is comfortable in munis and knows the account numbers, and actually this is much easier for people who are operating the budget, including the principals, because now the principals don't have to wonder, like, where is that money? You know?
And this also ties into our budget report that's in this packet. So
Correct.
you're not sitting there looking at,
Right.
district administration saying, why do we have a budget number of this, but we're spending, twice that already, and then there's things going in and out. This
Right, and
is a lot easier to
and
follow.
even then, when you see like, well, let's just say, district administration professional salaries. I don't make $251,000, so, you have to look down below, right? So you take that line and you look down below, and Joan has in a great description, has told you exactly what is in that line. Now, if there's a change, for example, if you look at, let's look at district, computer maintenance support. And you see a 223% increase.
Stands out.
That happens because we moved lines from the school's lines and moved them into a district. We centralized them.
That's what I
But
thought.
you don't have to wonder about what happened there, because all you've got to do is go
It's
down
in the
below,
comment
and it tells
below.
you in the comment why that happened.
Okay.
Okay? Now, for the purposes of this process here, we can do it however you want it. I know you've had a chance to do a little review beforehand. We can just have you ask us any questions if you have any. Or we can certainly point out some things to you, but I don't want to spend time on something that we don't need to spend time on if you're comfortable with the budget information that you're receiving. You just let us know how you want to receive it, and then the individual principals are here, and when we go through each school, because that's our goal tonight, is to get through the district lines and each school's line. We certainly could, they'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
No changes in class size, from what I
Um,
understand. Was that one of the assumptions?
yes, no, yes, we kept the class sizes reasonable. Yep.
Okay. So with that, are we shifting people around at all this year? Sometimes you have that bubble class, but they're in the middle school now. So,
Pembroke, if,
well, Pembroke has one too, but then
The largest.
the largest is the 7th grade.
right, and what we did is we took those resources and distributed them at the grade as they went through. That's
So you're not. So there'll still be a middle school next year. So we're not going to see a shift between any of the schools. But with Pembroke, do we have a shift next year, coming up to the middle school?
Donna reduces one teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't shift though, it's reduction.
It's a reduction.
Oh, it is a reduction. Okay. So all right, we won't. see the
Because
middle.
you have a
Is the fifth
smaller
grade a
class
large class?
going, right?
Right, we have 6 teachers in 5th grade, and then we were going just to 5 next year.
So
Okay.
there'll now be 5 teachers at every grade, correct, Donna, next year?
Yeah.
And then what happens next year for 6th grade at the middle
Goes up to
school?
130 kids.
131.
From like 100.
32.
From one,
It's like 30 more
110,
kids.
yeah, from 107 to 110.
So do you get an extra teacher, or the way that they're broken up, your scheduling doesn't require that?
No, we're okay.
Okay.
The class sizes are gonna
Class
shift.
sizes are gonna shift, they'll be a little larger.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was your question.
Yeah, that
How,
was-
how are the
yeah.
class sizes? Right, so do you have a sense, Brian, of how they shift?
Yeah, they're going from, I think we're 21 now to 20, 24. Something like that.
Well, that would make sense. How many blocks do you have in it? Is it 7?
The sixth grade, you're gonna have 6.
So 6
Yeah.
times 3 would be 8. Yeah, that's getting close to.
Mhm.
Okay.
The eighth grade will have the highest class.
Instead of,
Next
Because
year's
that big
8th grade.
classes going
Because
through.
that big crew is going through.
right.
All right.
It's hard to imagine that big class will be in high school the year after, though. It seems like that's going awfully quickly.
Is the high school ready for them?
Sure they are. Sure they are. You saw Peter, absolutely. No worries about that.
All right.
So maybe we should just go tab by tab. So are there any questions, comments, further information needed on any of the administrative lines?
That's the easiest one, or at least the way I look at it.
I
Okay.
really appreciate the format.
Good.
This works.
Okay, so going to the Pearly School. Any questions for Margaret?
We only have full day kindergarten, right? There's no more
Correct.
half day. Preschool is that we still have a mix of full day and half day.
Yes.
Okay.
Full day and then a morning and an afternoon session.
And do you adjust that based on what people are registering for, or do you just pretty much stick with what you offer?
We do stick with what we offer. However, last year was the first year we did a lottery for entrance
Okay.
into pre-K. So we'll do that again. And a couple months ago, we started thinking about, depending on the wait list, if possible, again, because we are tuition-based, that if we have a lot of children waiting to come in, then we might be able to do another half session.
Okay.
But we just will have to wait until March, to see how that goes.
And when you do a lottery, anyone can sign it. Anyone can enroll in our preschool.
Georgetown resident and a child must be 3 by August 31st.
Okay.
They have to be Georgetown residents?
Yes.
That's the latest we've been doing.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Have we always done that?
No.
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 Okay.
No, but it's been very interesting. I mean, there still are lots of people who think of the preschool program as like a private preschool. And I don't think of it that way. I think of it as our preschool program. And, basically the kids that from our preschool generally, go to our kindergartens, although there certainly are other preschool children who from other sources that come into our program. But I look at it as a public school program. I don't look at it as a private, even though it is 100% fully funded by the tuitions.
That's what gives people that
Yes,
idea.
I know, I understand,
That
I understand
sense
why
of
they
unity.
think
Well,
it,
and
but
it's
I
not
just,
man-
we
and
just
it's
treat
not
it like,
mandatory.
we just treat it like it's our preschool.
Right, I
Yeah.
always thought, we considered it private public, is how I always
Yeah,
thought it.
yeah.
because-
Exactly. Because
But when did we start just offering it to Georgetown?
Last year.
Last year, I think,
And down the road.
because we have enough slots.
Yeah,
We didn't
right.
wanna have Georgetown people not being able to get into a program that
Correct.
was in our schools.
That makes sense, yeah.
If we're looking ahead to when the new Pembroke opens up, then, as we've been talking about, it leaves the
Room to
early
grow.
school
You'll have more
with a lot of
room.
So maybe at that point in time, we do look at expanding the pre-K and being able to offer it again to families from outside the district. But for now, because we do have a waiting list, it only seems fair that we have Georgetown residents be the first come, first served.
okay.
Again, down the road, that might change.
So what's the average number on the wait list?
Well, last year, it was pretty good. We only had maybe 5 to 7 right on the day of the lottery on the wait list. And then as families moved in, that shifted a little bit. Some families were able to get off the wait list and got a session. So it did, remain fairly stable around 5 to 7.
And sometimes people, think they wanna sign up for 5 days, but then something happens, some circumstance happened, and maybe they can only do 3.
Right.
So, Margaret usually has the ability to accommodate people, through some changes that just sort of happen. you know, as a result. And of course, kindergarten registration happens in April, right, Margaret?
Actually, we're starting, our packets went online, but we'll have from now until May. So
Okay.
all through the spring will be registered.
Right, so that's always a wild card for us. I mean, we can figure out how many live births, we can look at how many kids are in our preschool programs and make some estimates.
And we've
as to
already
what those-
contacted- Sorry, Carol.
Go ahead.
We've already contacted private prepay to find out how many children they'll be sending over.
Mhm.
But again, there are always families that
That can move in, yeah,
So it's, nothing is ever exact, but I think we have a pretty good estimate.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on Pearlie?
And just for those people sitting at home saying they're going through the budget pretty quickly
Yeah.
and not asking a lot
Yeah.
of questions, there's not a lot to question.
Yeah, the budget
The-
goes up
the-
2.1%.
Right, I mean, you'll see, significant, you'll see 100% decrease or an 81% increase, but you can clearly understand the comments below that say, we're moving things to where they should be, and you can see the offset. So for those people that think that it's going
Right.
pretty smoothly, there's been a lot of work that's gotten us to this point.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at custodial substitutes, again, that's because of the centralization. When you look at the testing, the guidance testing, that's because there are some tests that we're now doing, to track student progress. So Margaret put more money into that line and took money out of other lines in order to keep the increase in her budget to the level that was level funding her non-salary lines. Okay?
The only question I would have is why is there such a difference between math workbooks and reading textbooks?
Okay. Margaret?
Well, with everyday math, they are consumable.
Oh,
So every
right.
year, we're having to buy, and every child gets two, in first grade, they get 2 notebooks,
Yep.
consumables. So that's an expense. In reading, we don't have textbooks per se, we have a local library. We have foundations materials, those are also consumables. But foundations also has things that aren't, there are individual boards with magnetic letters and that sort of stuff. So, everyday math is,
Makes sense.
it's an expense.
Consumables are expensive, they are. Mhm. Right, and foundations, just so you know, that's our phonics program.
Yes.
And that goes at every grade, that's a sequential program all the way
Wilson
through grade 3.
program.
It's an offshoot of the Wilson program.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Pembroke. Pembroke's budget, goes up, 0.3%.
Wow.
And,
It's because we reduced a teacher.
that's right, we reduced the teacher. That's the difference in the salary.
I'm glad that we're funding custodial substitutes. No, I noticed that in both Pearlie and Pembroke, so that now when,
Yes, the substitute lines are always a little tricky, particularly the teaching substitute lines,
well,
because
right.
we have long-term substitutes. We have, one of the wonderful things about hiring young teachers is they have a lot of energy and they're excited, but they also, have families. They get married and they have families, and so, we end up with quite a few of our teachers are having families, which is wonderful.
Right.
Enriches our community, but it is something we have to accommodate for in the budget. And we don't know who's going to, announce that they're going to have a baby. So we try to build those numbers based on histories, looking at multiple year histories.
Number, yeah.
And then whatever, if we have more than basically an average in a year, then we obviously have to accommodate for that in another way by moving money from other lines.
One other thing that you guys just might want to think about when you go through here, you see you have natural gas and electricity, and you have the historic actual numbers for FY11 and FY12. So if you look at them, like it was 106 and 11 and almost 80 and 12, and then there's nothing in 13 and 14. That's because that money was shifted to the EDSCO grant.
Okay.
But so that's
Right.
so that was taken from our budget. But then you say, well, why was it?
Shifted to the EDSCO grant. Okay.
But then the question is, well, where did the hiccup happen with the 92,000?
Well, I think the
And
hiccup happened.
it was
is
level funded as
Right.
opposed to actual spend.
Right, that's correct.
We
Right.
had level funded because one year, if we had, I don't recall the exact number, but say it was for lack of any number, I have
Just
no
pick a
idea.
number, yeah.
So if it was $1 million that we had in our budget for level funded, even though our actual spending might have been 1,200, we level funded to $1 million the next year. So when they went and took the money out, they took out our actual spend as opposed to our level fund.
Right. And that was the $92,000
That was
difference.
$92,000
$92,000 more
difference.
than
Okay.
we were, we
Than we
built
had-
our budget with the,
Right.
with the wrong number, basically.
Yeah.
Got it, got it.
Yeah.
Just so that if anyone here is looking at it and gets confused as to where it came from, I just thought you should know.
Okay.
And the changes in maintenance, is that the same ESCO grant?
No,
Right,
well,
what
no, the
What happened
maintenance,
with that?
I'm
Exactly?
not, I think prior school committees had asked for all expenses. We used to divvy up the special ed tuition out and the transportation and also maintenance to each building. They wanted to see what each building cost.
Right.
But in reality, the way we have to report to the state, we don't report by school for those expenses.
Right.
It was very difficult to manage, so I asked Carol if we could go back to a district line for special ed, so you really see what the cost of special ed is, and also to take buildings and grounds maintenance and put it back into a district
Right.
account,
Okay.
because that's the way it's reported. It made it very difficult to
So
do the
it's-
end of the year
it's
report,
changed-
doing
It
it
was-
the other
It's
way.
And that's
changed
easier for us to-
lines to
to
make it
actually
easier
use
for
it.
us to understand what the
Yeah.
actual
Right.
costs are.
There's two ways
Okay.
of looking at it. I mean, you might have a committee in the next 2 years that wants to go back to looking at it from a building to building perspective, where you see what exactly does it cost us to run Pearlie, what exactly does it cost us to run
Let's hope
Pembroke.
not.
But
It-
with
it's
the
just-
maintenance piece,
This
though,
looks good.
now that we have implemented School Dude, with the maintenance piece, we can tell
could
you
give you
that
She can.
outside the budget.
I would think
Right.
so, yes. that
So,
would
you
make
know, we
sense.
just don't
But
have
we
a,
didn't have that reporting capability before.
Right.
right, you'd have to go back and pull every plumbing bill
So
and
this
see
is
what did we
great.
spend on each
This is
school.
a very good move. Okay.
Yes.
It makes it much easier to manage.
And it's how you spend the money. I mean, basically, you know, if in the past, if we had something we had to do at Pembroke that we didn't budget for, we would have had to go and take the money from another, could do a transfer with you to take the money from a high school line, let's just say, in
Yeah.
order to do it. Now it's just these are the central maintenance lines, and they can be deployed in the way that's best utilized.
Right.
Without
And broken down in the
requiring
way
a
that
transfer.
You might need it.
But
to.
we can, as Joan said, be able to break it out by school based on the actual school due reporting.
Right.
Okay. Anything else on Pembroke? Did you have
How
something,
about-
Rob?
So computers.
Donna? Or I think Rob has a question.
So computer software goes up, but the computer hardware equipment goes down. How do those two come together?
Well, I think what happens each year, we don't spend a lot of money on the software. And, you know, we think about each year and how our software is aging out. And so we try to make that adjustment to the computer hardware to put more money in, because we're always transferring money within the computer lines. So I tried to make it, lines go actual, you know, the actual things that we spent. So it was backwards to see, I had to transfer money into software, so why wouldn't I put this money into that? And so what I did is try and just even it out so it has the same, we're spending the same amount of money, but we're taking it from actual places, so I'm not having to send a transfer to the school committee.
She budgeted where it's actually charged.
Right, and the reason it's at 0 for FY13 revised is I pulled this munis report in November. That's when I started building this. So Donna's probably made transfers since November that don't show up in your revised. Do you know what I mean? It says FY13 revised is 0. My guess is that Donna had made transfers since November. But I had to have a drop dead date, so I pulled it at the end of November. But I did ask them this year, I don't know how it was done in the past, but to really try to look at where they do spend their money, because we do a lot of transfers. It seems like a ridiculous amount of transfers. So if they can plan and they know where they can put the money, then I'd rather have them do it that way, even if it doesn't match last year's or the year before, if they know what they're gonna spend.
And I think
Right.
last year, because it was confusing, where Dr. Picone put certain things in the broad general categories that when it came time to spend the money, they had to figure out. And so this
Where it
just
actually
allows us to actually budget where
Go
we're
a
going
little,
to
a
actually
level
spend it.
deeper into what
Well, that
exactly
and
we're
it ties
spending
right
on.
into Munis, which
Right.
is the accounting system that we
But
use.
it's what they use.
And
That's
they're
what
used to
their
using.
reports they go by, so they know now and we worked together on it to say what should be charged where. So the biggest issue we had probably was our technology. Peter was very helpful, and we had all this technology charged in these crazy places, like to telephones and whatever. So we sat down, he went over it a couple of times, I went over it a couple of times, we pulled all the old invoices, looked at the past 3 years, there was never any consistency where it was charged. So we tried to say right in the notes, this is what's charged to that line, so that when we do POs or when Julie pays a bill, we all know, it's right
Do you
there.
have like a chart of accounts now? That,
Well,
where
we're,
are you getting there?
right, we're getting
We're
there, but at
getting-
least with the descriptions in the background, it's pretty simple
Yeah.
what gets charged where. So, and it's not like anything, I think sometimes things were forgotten because they weren't charged to the same line every year. So you just couldn't look back at the historical just 1 year. You had to go
Right.
back multiple years, so we've tried to fix that.
Right, and if
What
you,
is-
I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
What is maintenance building, is that contractor service?
Contracted services, yeah.
Contractor, okay. So those are zero.
Because I moved them
If
into
she
the
moved it.
district line. There's one big
Yeah,
buildings
it's
and
the
grounds
last
line.
note, 03602.
Right on.
Anything else in Pembroke? No, we can move on to the tab H, which is the middle school.
The middle school, if you look at the bottom, the middle school goes up 9.9%, and the high school goes up 12%. What I want you to realize is that I took all the special ed tutors and aides out of the middle high school,
Yeah.
that one, the 6,000 account, and I actually broke them out to who works at the middle school, and it's budgeted there. So that line went up 151,000 at the middle school, and I think it was 156,000 at the high school. And it was too hard for me to try to figure out I couldn't figure out who was working where. So I worked with the principals when I first started, trying to figure out who should be where, and I just decided it was easier for me to manage if we broke them out to the
So
schools.
is the 6,000 department or account the middle high school aggregation gone?
Right, it is.
Okay, so we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
It went, and as a total, the middle high school went down 23.2%.
Okay,
So,
so the pieces were middle school, high school, and middle high school combined.
right, well, they had their sped teachers budgeted at their schools,
Right.
Okay.
middle school and high school. But they had all the tutors and aides budgeted in this big lump sum at the middle high school.
Okay.
And it was hard to figure out which aides were supposed to be working with which programs, and
Right.
Okay.
so we broke it out.
And in the process of the budget process last year, remember we had a breakdown by staff at
Right.
each school, but we never had a breakdown by tutors and aides.
Right.
Because it was just kind of lumped in one big
Yep.
tutors and aides
Yeah,
line.
no, I remember
And
that clearly.
required us to do some work teasing
Yep.
it out. And now what Joan is saying is we know where every single tutor and aide works, and it's charged to the appropriate place and
And-
line.
The question I ask every year, it gets old. Did we budget for summer pay?
Summer pay.
In grants.
In
Donna Straits, she's asking for like the
The summer
summer
program?
yeah,
program.
the summer program, sorry.
Yes, this year's special ed summer program was written into the IDEA grant.
Okay.
So we eliminated it from our budget. We didn't budget it last year, and we had to move all kinds of money around to
Right.
cover it.
That's the problem.
But that's,
So when,
it's like an every other year occurrence.
right, when Donna
Not
came,
anymore.
No.
when Donna came this year, we decided that we took the tuitions out of the grant because they're not Medicaid eligible if they're being paid for the grant, through the grant.
Okay.
And we wanted to increase our Medicaid
Medicaid.
rate. So I called a former sped director I worked with, and because when you write salaries through grants, you pay an extra 2% on the mass teacher's retirement. It comes out of our pocket, not the teacher's pocket. So, we were and Carol had wanted to stay away from doing that, but when I talked to the former sped director I work with, she reminded me that they don't pay retirement on summer
Right.
programs.
Right.
So if the teacher teaches in a summer program. So she said that's
Because it's
where
not part
she,
of their employment contract.
she always budgeted a whole summer program there. So we were able to fund aides because you don't get charged the extra MTRS on teacher aides. So aides that work in the regular year, we put in the grant. and we put in the whole summer program is in the
Okay, so
grant.
it's
So
all-
it's budgeted, and that grant goes till August
Right,
31st.
so you have the summer to
So-
spend it.
Okay.
I think the other thing to mention too is, because it is related to budget and it is related to this topic, Ann, and that is that one of the things that was frustrating for the town is that we do all the work around Medicaid, but the money goes to the town. And, you know, they were counting in some years on $35,000 to $40,000, and really what we were generating was somewhere near $4,000 to $10,000 to $10,000. So one of the things that we've been trying to work on, and Joan's expertise, just what she just shared with you, by just making some changes to what actually gets charged to the grant. Just for the first couple of quarters this year, I showed Mike Farrell the other day $53,000. And that's not through the year, so they may get there may be another $53,000 generated, which means the $100,000 goes into the town's coffers toward the budget. So that's why I feel like we should be talking to them a little bit about, you know, helping us a little with our special ed money, because we're doing
We're
the work to
helping
generate that to help the town.
Them in that sense,
So-
that
And
way.
if you did not do the work,
We get
It
four
would
to
stay-
ten
it would
thousand.
stay-
get
get
the
done.
3,000 to 4,000,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
If they didn't
didn't
use
do
their
the work.
expertise and do the work. So I think there's, you know, I just think it's important, you know, for everybody to know that, you know, by shifting the way we're thinking about some of these things, we are really working to try very hard to benefit the town.
Yeah,
So
I
we're
think,
working
I
on-
don't, I think just because there was so much transition in
Yeah.
my role, that I don't think it occurred to anybody that you can't double dip and get federal funding for Medicaid for something that was paid with federal funds.
Right.
Right.
And I didn't know that was the reason. I just knew that in Beverly, we never put tuitions in the grants. So I
Right.
just started asking the
Right.
question, and
And here they
that
always
was the
put
reason.
tuition
Right.
grants.
So
So anyway, that's a good thing. So in terms of tab H, middle school, anybody have any questions for Brian?
So there's a middle school compass, hi Brian. There's a middle school compass teacher, that we're not able to move to budget. Compass teacher to
Where are you
move.
looking, Pam?
I'm
Is there a
actually
line?
looking in the subcommittee meeting, minutes, and it says that we had wanted to move a middle school compass teacher to budget. Currently, only half salary billed to budget, the other
So-
to a grant.
right, the other is
something
on
would-
that IDEA
We
grant.
have to keep that there,
Right,
that arrangement right now.
right.
Because we can't, because if we put it all in the budget
The
budget
budget's gonna go up by
goes
that
up too
amount.
much.
Okay.
We wanted to move it.
It-
That was
Every year,
Donna's plan.
when they start to do this, the goal is every year is to get everything off of grants that we can.
Yes, that's our goal.
That's the first thing that you try to do.
Okay.
And then, so you put them all in the budget, and then you let it flow through, and then you realize
Right.
that you have a,
Because
I
the
don't know,
grants
10, 20, 30% increase.
may
And you
not
say,
be so.
okay, who's going back in the grant?
Right.
But this is an entitlement grant, so I mean, we do get the special ed money. It's an entitlement
Right.
grant.
Right.
It's not we have to write a grant and wait to get it. It's the
Right, so this
entitlement
is a
grant.
sustainable, relatively sustainable.
Right.
Okay.
We just determine what we're going to charge to it.
Okay.
Brian, is it true, you know, I know for you and Peter, that do the department head, how do subject area allocations get determined? Does that come from the department heads?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so they make recommendations?
Staff as well. with the
And staff as well.
department heads.
Okay.
There's nothing per se in here for technology, right?
Just our current leases
Right.
for equipment.
Yep.
And then you centralized technology, did you not?
The support.
Support, yeah.
Yeah. The computer leases, I believe, are budgeted at middle high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, in the comments section is great.
All right, are we good to go to
Yep.
high school?
Okay, ready to go to high school. Tab I.
Oh, I had a guidance, the college
Naviance?
Naviance. Is that in here? I know that, didn't GEF or the PTA give us the initial funding for that, but we pay for the maintenance every year?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that how, okay,
yeah.
and that's in
But
here?
did we budget it in the high school? Or I thought we budgeted that in a centralized. We did have this conversation about, are some of these applications better left in the school? Because this one only affects Peter's school. Naviance is only a high school, whereas something like Connect Ed or Administrators Plus or those
Edline.
affect, Edline affects, although Edline's just middle high school too, right?
Middle high school.
Yeah, but there are some that are K
Okay.
through 12. So I'm just trying to remember.
It's okay, as long as it's in here.
It's
It
in
is
here.
in
It's in
here,
here,
it
that
is
was-
in here,
All
yeah.
right.
But we should find it, we should get
I'm
the
looking.
answer to your
I'm
question.
looking.
I thought that was, here it is.
Oh, phys
It's
ed maintenance equipment.
05071,
We
guidance
did leave it
counselor
at the high school?
services include full-time guidance counselor, testing materials, general guidance supplies, and $2,490 for Naviance
Okay.
software.
Perfect.
So we left it at the high school.
Yeah,
Isn't phys ed equipment 246 in FY13 and 0 in FY14, 100%?
Where, I don't know where you were.
phys ed equipment, he's down,
phys ed.
he's down, oh, where are you, Rob? Can you give us,
05041.
yep, what's next up?
It looks like, it looks like they put all the money in supplies rather than
Yes.
equipment.
They're kind of the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And I think at one time, long ago, when they were buying some fitness equipment, they had a line for equipment,
Uh,
and we've pretty much been level funding since then, so it just stays there.
That's quite a robust account.
Yeah, so we put it all in supplies.
All $246.
Dollars worth, I know.
$250.
I
Okay.
know. I know.
Would we, at some point, want to take that line item out then? Or,
Well, because we might at some point want to spend something out of it.
What I did, if you'll notice, there's textbooks at every grade, at every subject area. And I pulled off the current available accounts in Munis because you don't get all these accounts, we suppress the zero balance accounts for your monthly reports. But I wanted that, and I understand why they went to the regular, just one textbook line, but I wanted the principals to know that there were lines available to them, but they didn't see them because they get reports that have zero balances suppressed. So I just left it in here now in case they wanted to put money in a line they hadn't. If I find it at the end of this budget season, these lines weren't used, then we'll just suppress them again. But if Peter did have a request from his phys ed teacher that he needed a real piece of equipment, not baseball bats and
Right.
whatever, but a real piece of equipment, then we wouldn't want to get rid of that line because I have to report that differently to the state because it's an equipment. Supplies are consumables, they get reported one way, equipment gets reported a different way, so.
This is just the chart of
What's
accounts.
kind of interesting is you have a textbook line for each of the subjects.
But
And if you go back to 11, I can't find any money that was spent on textbooks. So while I agree it's an extra line of zeros, it also speaks to the point
Right, but
that-
that's because you were doing it in one major line at the top.
Yeah, what happened was, and
Okay.
I don't know when, but maybe around 3 years ago, we just kept level funding. So whoever was lucky enough to have got books approved for purchase in one particular year, maybe it was a new adoption or something. Let's just use math for example. They would have a high account. Well, they get that every year. So I wanted more flexibility in getting a more equitable way to buy textbooks. So
Okay.
we put it all, they still request the same way, but it goes into one account and then I can manage people's needs better that way on a year-to-year basis.
Okay,
makes a
good.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
all right. So I take that back.
Our
We have
favorite
spent
word,
money on
redirection, right, Peter?
textbooks,
Our
just
favorite
not a
word.
lot.
We like that word. We do it a lot.
Right.
So, and then the next section is middle high. So we do have some expenses that are shared.
And this is the one where you see the biggest volatility because you try to split out between middle and high school.
Right. I like it better that way, though, it's easier to.
I like that it ties to Munis.
Yes, I do
So-
too.
For you and the administrators, you can actually tie back and understand where everything is.
I would just like to make a comment that the sped teachers I said were split out. There's a sped teacher listed in here under the 6101, 51104. It's really not a sped teacher, it's the sped coordinator, because she is shared between the two schools. It's not a teacher. I don't know if we don't have another category to report her.
Right,
Or if we have to change that title, but it's the sped coordinator.
okay.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And this area goes down 23%.
Right. Which
Because we-
is
because we
is
shifted
real, but it's more that it's being picked up in the other two
We
sections.
shifted it other
Right.
places, that's right.
And this is where you have all the equipment leases for the computer labs. All right, any questions?
My thought, my hope is that those computer lease lines will always be there. The choice, the lease that's in choice is not for the middle high school, it's for the district, it's the district's,
Server.
Server?
It's
Network.
the
Okay.
service. So, if, we are in dire need of replacing one of our business labs. We replaced 2 last year. But our first lease with the Mac lab and the CAD lab and the mobile stuff, that's all up after this year.
Right.
So I hope that we can keep that, because NEASC is very adamant about having a line to renew this kind of
So
stuff.
you would take the resources that we allocated for those leases
Yeah, I would
this
not
year
ask
and,
out of choice, no.
but the
He
amount
wants
that you
to keep
have
them there so he
in
can-
here,
yeah.
you would use next year
For
for
a
the
new
next
lease.
round of
a new
leases
lease.
to upgrade whatever you have on your list of high importance.
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
All right.
Okay, well, that's what we plan to cover tonight in the budget. Next time, we're gonna talk about special education, maintenance, athletics, and grants and revolving accounts, and school choice. School choice will be part of our
And the
discussion.
pieces that are missing out of this will be in
Right.
the packet.
That's
Right,
right.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
so you've got much of it, but you don't have all of it. You don't
Right.
have the athletic part, and you don't have the revolving account part.
Correct.
So you'll get those, and then you'll have, everything will be complete.
All right.
All right?
Great job. Thank you. I love the presentation.
Thanks for your attention.
So bring this to the next meeting.
Bring this to the next meeting.
Fill in with whatever's in the next packet.
But we'll give it to you 3-hole punched, and we can just, you can just slip it right in.
Right in.
Got it. Easy.
Okay, moving right along to school reports.
Okay, so Margaret, I think, you know, we wanted to have a piece of student work. So, next year I plan to have one from the middle high school, but Nora, you know, when we hatched the plan, she really didn't have time to get it done. So she promises next year she will, and in the past couple of years, we used one drawing from Pembroke. So we had a bunch of these pictures on the Pearly website of different
looked
schools.
familiar.
So we went back and forth with which, we loved them all. We really had a hard time picking one. But at the end of the day, we picked this, so we know it came from a first grade roll of pictures, but we don't have a name. So I wish I could give credit to the actual student, but we like the fact that it reminds us of what we're here for, which is all about kids.
cute.
So
And
yeah,
our-
I think
A
it came
budding
out
young
great.
artist.
Well, I
Laura
use-
found her creative side.
I also use a drawing for the cover of my school improvement plan. So in the spring, the art teacher does a project with all the first grade. And then I do choose one that will copy well. They're all beautiful, but sometimes some, copy better than others. And then all the others are put on our website, and they're just, it's a slideshow. They're just
Okay.
constantly
So that's where we
changing. So
got
if you
it.
go on,
Great.
you'll
Okay.
see all the ones from last year. So then this spring, it will be children from this year.
Cool.
So then next year, they will be just for
Right.
That's really cool. Okay, all right, Margaret.
Okay, well, again, I think the purpose of this evening is to give everyone a little picture about, what we're doing in our schools and
again, how we're addressing MCAS needs. So at the Pearly School, I did not make any changes to the school improvement plan from last year. So what I'm going to give you is an update on the goals that we've been working toward. So goal 1 is by the end of this school year, kindergarten and grade 1 students will reach 80% proficiency or above on the DIBELS assessment and will read at grade level as evidenced by Fountas and Pinnell assessment data. And toward that goal, instruction is given in a 90-minute literacy block. And so again, we're constantly looking at our instruction and making sure that we're meeting students' needs in that way. But we also have bi-monthly data meetings with our 2 literacy interventionists and the reading coach. And then that's, again, bi-monthly. And then once a month, that data meeting is with the classroom teacher. So then we're in the classroom, teachers are giving a double dose of Foundations, which is our phonics program. And so the way they might do that is the instruction is given to everyone, and then you might notice that in that lesson, there may be a few children who didn't quite get that concept. So at some point during that 90-minute literacy block, the teacher might pull them aside and give them an extra, sometimes it can be just 5 minutes. So that's called our double dose.
It's not fair that you have to keep turning
That's,
around.
no, that's all right. Our student intervention and progress monitoring with the literacy tutors. There are, at the beginning of the year, when we looked at our assessments, we formed initial intervention groups of children to work with the interventionists. And then every other week, the literacy tutors do a progress monitoring, which is an assessment. So we're constantly looking at that data and seeing how children are progressing. And then every 6 to 8 weeks, we will look again at that. And then some children might move out of the intervention, and then we might form another group. And then homework and reading journals, again, also support our literacy. And I think you can see, I cannot tell you, I want to frame this page, how well teachers have done. In the fall, Fountas and Pinnell, again, this Fountas and Pinnell was done in September. 80% were at or above benchmark already, but now 88% are reading at or above benchmark.
Very significant.
It's fantastic. I mean, I can't tell you how hard everyone has worked, but we're so proud of this. Then through DIBELS, and again, I just have to say, the Fountas and Pinnell, really, it gives you a full picture of a child's reading. They're looking at comprehension, how they're decoding, but it's the full picture. When you, again, the whole point of reading is comprehension. So it's not just decoding the words, it's their understanding of the text, making inferences and that sort of thing. So, and it's not timed, it will be in a leveled book, but the teacher's asking questions, they're taking a record of how many times the children will mess up, or miscue, or self-correct. So it really gives you that full picture. The DIBELS, the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills, is a 1-minute assessment. And all it's looking at is automaticity. Because we know through research that a child's ability to be automatic impacts their comprehension. And I think if you kind of think about that, if a child has to take time to sound something out, and every time they're sounding something out, they've lost the information. So by the time they finish a sentence, they've forgotten what they've read. So the whole goal when we're teaching children to read is to have it be automatic, which is the whole point of Foundations and phonics. So through the DIBELS, we're looking at just automaticity. So again, in kindergarten in the fall, 79% were at or above benchmark, and then now in the winter, 83. And look at grade 1. 65% of children coming into grade 1 were at or above benchmark, and now they're 85%.
Wow, it's fantastic.
So what this data says to us is that children are automatic and they have depth and comprehension. And there it is. So I could go on and on. But I won't.
So Margaret, just before you go too much, so 85% are above, at or above. What about the other 15%?
Well, and again, later on,
Those probably translate into the subgroup that we continue to have some challenges with.
And it's very interesting, and that's kind of my last slide, the next steps.
Okay.
But it turns out that the other 15% are 15 children.
Yeah.
Because we have 100 kids. Of those 15 children, there are only 6 or 7 who are in special ed,
Mm-hmm.
which is good news, bad news. Because now we're looking at, well, because again, simply because a child is on an IEP does not necessarily mean, that they're not at or above benchmark. But I think sometimes that's kind of the perception. So then we do have to look at what's going on for all those children that's preventing them from being a benchmark. So that's our work in the data teams to better kind of laser focus that instruction and where we need to provide time for them. Sometimes it's fluency. Again, more often at this age, it's the automaticity. We call it cracking the code. There's just something that is preventing them from really cracking the code, and we have to find out what that is, and then target the instruction to that. So again, that is the ongoing work and what we do in the data teams. Goal 2, by the end of the 2012-2013 school year, students will continue to advance in their writing proficiency to meet grade level expectations as defined by the Massachusetts English Language Arts and Literacy Frameworks. At this point, we don't have an assessment for writing, so it really is looking at the writing and then finding rubrics, and is the writing up to that rubric, up to that standard. A rubric is a way of looking at something and have they met it. So to support that, we've brought in an author and our enrichment to support literacy. Our writing units in all our grades are being aligned to the standards. We're looking at student writing at grade level meetings. And again, our grade level meetings are sometimes twice a month, just sometimes it works out once a month. But at every meeting, we've started asking teachers to bring writing, and we use our Elmo to project and look at how children are coming. We've started giving pre-assessments and then post-assessments at the beginning of a unit, for instance, on persuasive writing. The teacher would just say, write me a letter. Then they teach their unit and then did a post-assessment, and we looked at it the other day, and it's just, again, it's just phenomenal. It just, you teach something, and again, you target the instruction, and to see how children really just absorb that, it's phenomenal. So, that's what we do at our grade level meetings. And then along with that, it's choosing rubrics to assess the writing, because again, there are lots of different ways to look at that writing, and so we're finding and aligning the rubrics to the standards. Again, everything is coming back to the standards. That's what we use to drive instruction at every step of the way, so that's what we use to assess. And then throughout the year, professional development has been provided to support the writing. Okay. Goal 3, this is our math goal. By the end of the 2012-2013 school year, all students will reach grade level exit outcomes as defined by everyday math grade level goals and math grade level specific standards as evidenced by everyday math end of year benchmark test and end of year common core aligned assessments. And the ASPENS, which is an assessment that we're using, is somewhat like the DIBELS. It's a 1-minute tool that lets you see the automaticity of numeracy. So how quickly can children manipulate numbers in their head? Because again, we know that math is also dependent on that. If a child has to continually break down the numbers in their head, they're going to lose that information. So we want it to be quick and automatic, and that's the goal at this age. So the ASPENS is not looking at a curriculum, it's looking at just math sense. So after using that, we're looking at students who are below benchmark, and then intervention is provided for them. There are teachers at each grade level who are working with John Grossman, our math interventionist, to identify math exemplars. So these would be like the word problems that 3 times a year, again, to get at how a child can read the math and then figure out a problem. And then rubrics are written to align to the standards. And again, I look at these numbers in the fall. So children coming into kindergarten, this is on the ASPENS, not our everyday math curriculum. So our ASPENS, which is just looking at automaticity, it's not anything about the curriculum.
Right.
So 45% of those children were at or above benchmark, and now in the winter, 73. Grade 1, 57 coming in, now they're 79. So, and again, this is not curriculum related, it's just how automatic. And so now, once children have that automaticity, we can teach the curriculum and they can hang on to that information as they're using it in other ways.
Foundation.
Right. Goal 4, promote awareness and respect as a framework for intervention and prevention of bullying and increase students' problem-solving abilities and social skills through school-wide bullying program and implementation. And school-wide, we use responsive classroom curriculum. And also, at our community gatherings that we have monthly, which are our school meetings, we use the same format as the classroom. We have, a greeting, and then we have a share, and then a wrap-up. Our professional development on January 28th was with Dr. Elizabeth Englander from the University, Bridgewater State University, who has been working in the field of bullying for 20 years, and she was phenomenal. That was district-wide, which was an awesome job. And I think we have plans to do more with what she presented to the staff because it was some really interesting information. Ellen Bazillion, who is our PE teacher, also implements a bully-proofing your school curriculum. And I think in the fall, if you'll recall, we used to call it our bullying program. And when kids would go home and say, I had bullying today, so we've changed that to our friendship club. Or friendship
I like that.
Yeah.
So trying to turn that around. And then we also have close collaboration with North Reading Transportation Company, which is our bus company, through the District Safety Committee. So we're, again, looking at children coming to school and leaving to school, being safe and following the same rules. And so if there are issues on the bus, I have communication with the drivers and then the director or facilitator. And then we have a Pearly School Safety Committee. So in the school, our secretary, our custodian, nurse, and I are in another committee. So we're looking in the school, what we can do to be safe. And then goal 5, increase and improve parent communication and involvement in relationship to topics identified on the school parent survey. So last year, one of the topics that parent identified they wanted to see were parent workshops, but in the afternoon, because we typically would have workshops in the evening that were not well attended, and what kind of came out was that, and especially for parents of children our age, they're young, by 6 or 7, they're already in the tub and ready for bed. So they asked for more afternoon workshops, so we are going to respond to that. The Kindergarten Readiness and Curriculum Committee sponsored workshop. So toward that goal in April, on April 24th, at 1:45 to 2:45, we are presenting a workshop entitled The Secret to Your Child's Success at School. And if you want to find out what that is, you have to come. And it's actually looking at literacy and how we can support that, and again, building that foundation for children. And then we're also looking at webcasts as a way to get out information to parents. Again, and that would be that we can record something and put it on our web, and then whenever a parent wants to access that, they could just go in and pull it up. And then we have a new school website, which I know you've seen. So then our next steps are to continue to refine units of writing based on the 3 modes of writing according to the Mass standards. Again, rather than have units based on topics, we're looking at the standards, and there are 3 types of writing: opinion, informative, explanatory, and narrative. So our units are being rewritten around those areas. Establish writing rubrics, and then again looking at Fountas and Pinnell assessments and using those to guide instruction on an ongoing basis. Analyzing Dibbles and Fountas and Pinnell data, which again we do on a bi-weekly and monthly basis. And then continue to work with math and literacy interventions to include progress monitoring, and again forming groups based on that information. And then not only are we looking at reasons for the discrepancy between regular ed and subgroups, but I do feel equally as important, and especially when we see the data the way it is right now, we also have to start looking at why are those children succeeding. And because it's important to know why, what are we doing well, and how are we reaching 85% that we can extrapolate and use for those 15. And this is actually the work that forms the basis of response to intervention, and which at the administrative level we're talking about. And that is really the way you reach children, how you provide that intervention. And so you know, in our team, we start looking at, well, you know, what defines for us intervention? What would we use for children? How are we going to identify them? What assessments will we use? And then once we've identified them, how will we provide? So, and some of that work is, we call it the universal instruction, that what do we give to all students? And so, and what we're giving to all students is what's working well. So not only is it looking the discrepancy, but also, again, what we're doing well that we want to do more of. And then to continue collaborate with grade 2 teachers that we've done a couple times this year, and that's worked well. Again, wanting to know what we're sending over, the students that will end up in grade 2, and we want to know how to prepare them. And then my other fantastic news, and I know Barry Belanger is so happy about this, we're disseminating our parent survey. And we really fine-tuned it this year. We have a narrow focus. We only have maybe 10 or 12 questions, all focused around communication and how we can better communicate with parents. And we put it on our website, because we're going paperless, last week. And as of a couple days ago, we had 43, which is pretty good. It's a good response when there might be 240 families or somewhere around that. But then Barry put we do a Connect Ed through email. So he put out a Connect Ed into email, right to the link. And by the end of the day, we had 76.
Great.
And we still have another week and a half. So again, just so excited.
That is great.
So a lot of work, but so much going well, and I'm very, very happy
Great
to be able to
improvements.
report.
Nice to
Thank
say.
you, Margaret.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, Donna. So tonight, we're doing
Thank you,
the
Margaret.
2 elementary, and then we'll do the secondary at the next meeting. What?
I wasn't gonna use yours, but
Oh,
I can.
so,
if you want. I just hope it doesn't go reformat it a different way.
Okay.
so you can just.
Pull it out. You're gonna need your password. Be quicker if I did mine. Let's try it. It'd be quicker if I just did mine.
Oh, okay. So, but you know,
Oh, good.
Take that away.
Yeah, see it. Did you have to
All right,
turn something
great.
on to make it work?
All righty. Oh, what happened, Donna?
Country. She happens to be in Massachusetts.
Shall we ask,
Yeah, I got it here. I don't see it there.
It says
Searching.
searching.
Okay.
Oh, so,
oh, there you go.
there you go.
All right,
I was
perfect.
gonna say, could you knock?
All right.
So, hi everyone. So tonight we're we've revised our school improvement plan and update on our current improvement plan based on our subgroup and our MCAS results. We're the first opportunity for kids to take MCAS in 3rd grade. So we feel the pressure of that sometimes as a staff, if kids starting MCAS. And I think all the work that you see here is not my work, it's the work of the teachers. They think strategically and they always are looking for ways to help kids be successful. And the thing is, the MCAS is one measure of success. We think there are a lot of other ways that our kids are successful. We teach them to think critically, to problem solve, to ask complex questions, to challenge the status quo, and to really kind of empathize with each other and, to learn those social skills. So it's a combination of MCAS and all the other things that we try and do for our kids. So tonight I'm just going to go over the MCAS quick, talk about our revised improvement plan, and give us an update on our school improvement plan.
Okay, great.
So these were the grade 3 results I put compared to the state this year, which you probably have seen already.
Yep.
But there they are again. So 74% are proficient in higher reading and 74% in math. Grade 4, 68% in English language arts, and that's the year they take the long composition, which always has an impact. And then 62% proficient in higher in mathematics. Then we go to 5th grade, and the reason that we're proud of this year is that we have we have 72% of our kids in English language arts proficient or higher, which is the best we've done in a long time, and 31% of our kids are advanced. And I think that's huge, but then when you look at mathematics, 45% of our kids were advanced, 82% of our population, of 130, 107, 110 kids are in proficient or higher. And then this is our science and technology, which we know as a district that we kind of have to go back and really look at the tools we're giving our teachers and think about how we are doing science from K all the way up to 5th grade. Unfortunately, 5th grade is the first time they're ever tested. And also for our kids in 5th grade, they take English language arts, then they take math, and then they have to take the science and technology MCAS. So it is grind for them. But we know it's an area we want to get stronger. One of the things that we really look for is the growth percentile in our children and our students, and we target those, and we really look at each individual student and how much they've grown each year. We get that in 4th grade from the previous year, and our targets are somewhere between 40 and 60%. And as you can see, in 4th grade, we were up to 51, and in 51 and 60% growth percentile. In 5th grade, 53 and 69% growth percentile. So we're excited about this. We did the rankings in Massachusetts, and in grade 5 in mathematics, we were 24 out of 300 schools, and in English language arts, 100 out of 300, and then grade 4, we were 101 out of 300. So we're in the top third, and we feel very proud of that as a staff, and I think, when we got those results back, we always look at the kids that don't do well, but we also have to remember the kids that are succeeding, they are doing well as a result of the hard work that we do. So these are the cohort. We always try and show you the cohort. So this is the kids that are currently in grade 4. This is the current 5th graders. So in 3rd grade, you see a progression of what they've done in MCAS. The thing that we worry about is that subgroup. As you can see, that warning category, that's the one that we're going to talk about tonight, and we're going to target, because those are the kids that seem to still have difficulty. But we got to remember, MCAS is a paper and pencil test, and for some kids, that's a really hard thing for them to do. And even though we give them all sorts of accommodations and things, it's a challenge for them. And this is the current 6th grade that's over at the middle school. So this is
So
how
when
they.
you say current 6th grade, so that means how they did it in 11 and in 10. That
Yep,
same
10,
group
so
of
that-
kids.
yeah.
Same
The
kids.
same group of
Yeah,
students.
so then
okay.
3rd grade they were at 77%, and then 4th grade, and then 5th grade 72.
Okay.
And the math 78, 3rd grade is 65, and then they went up to 82%.
Yeah, it's generally going in the right direction.
Yep.
So we examine the student growth, we look at our grade level, and then we examine curriculum strategies. And then we really look at individual teachers will take their class roster, and they'll really look at individual students and really see how much growth they made last year. And that really kind of helps us identify, do we have the right tools in the hands for kids? Are we giving kids the proper interventions? And is there something that we can determine from the data that we can become better at with our interventions? Are those interventions working or are they not? It's like going to a doctor. You don't want to keep giving the same medicine if it's not showing any progress. And the growth percentile helps us as kids are compared to other students in similar categories. So each year, that growth percentile will help us determine if they are continuing. And we do have some kids that will be at 80% growth percentile, but they'll still be needs improvement, low needs improvement in MCAS. So we know they're still growing, but it may not reflect in the actual numbers that we do get back. So our update of our current, so we've been focusing on writing this year. All our professional days have been focused on writing, looking at our trajectory. We do writing prompts 3 times a year, and we analyze student work, and we're going through that revision with the Common Core. This year we started an instructional leadership team where we meet every 6 weeks, and we talk about ways that we can become better and stronger as a staff. And one of the recent implementations we did what we call learning walks. And I think sometimes we don't celebrate what's happening in our building. So it's a chance for teachers at all grade levels to walk through other teachers' classrooms. And teachers absolutely love that. In fact, they ask to do more of it, and every teacher wants to actually take a learning walk. So it's a chance to see what's happening in the other class, get ideas. But what they can really see is the progression with curriculum. So fifth grade teachers can go in a third grade classroom and really recognize how our curriculum builds for students. So we really spend a lot of time examining the writing process and continuum. And we spend a lot of time on open response questions. And over the years, we've gotten a lot better in open response, and our kids are providing more evidence in their answers for open response. And there's a skill to that. Question is, can they understand the text? And then beyond that, you know, not just giving a one sentence is not enough. You know, we really stress to them in all the practice they do up to MCAS. It's not MCAS practice, it's just the expectation of all their written responses. Give me evidence, at least 3 examples to support your answer. And we do that regularly in math and also ELA. So I talked about the learning walks. We progress monitor in January. We take all our kids that are below benchmark, and we start thinking about what other interventions we could do. We have small group instruction that we continue to do, and we continue to, this past professional development, one of the things that we've instituted is a diagnostic assessment at the beginning of our units, and then at the end doing kind of a summative assessment of, okay, diagnostic helps us teach, because it gives us information of where kids are having difficulty, and then throughout it, as we teach the unit, we want to see what the progress they made. So we have a beginning and an end, and throughout that we're gathering data with our formative assessments. So we have ongoing conference notes and Fountas and Pinnell and end of unit assessments. In math, we still have our everyday math program. We have used the math exemplars regularly, at least weekly, and they're attached to every unit. We think that that's really asking students not only to know what the strategy is, but to be able to apply the strategy. So it's a problem solving for them, and it's really can be challenging for them. But we think that's really helped us in our math get better results in our open response, the exemplars, because they're a lot harder than the math open response questions. We have a math reasoning inventory that was free. That was Marilyn Burns. We use that for our subgroup to kind of say, as we've provided MCAS. I'll show you that later. We've provided MCAS like intervention groups to get ready for MCAS, just because those kids it'll be tricky for them, and we're using that to kind of say, is this helping? Are the kids making progress? So we have a revised SMART goal to increase the subgroup of student performance in special education, English language arts. So we thought a good target would be the student growth percentile between 4th and 5th grade. So again, you'll see the things that we've done, looking at our analysis as a staff. We had a staff meeting where we all looked at those students and really put our heads together to think about the things we do well, but how can we get better and stronger. So we talked about scheduling, we talked about interventions. So that's helped us target some of our work. The special education staff has met monthly to look at benchmark data, what kind of services we're giving kids, to look at the learning profiles of students. Every student, we print out from their MCAS a learning profile. So we did that of all our students that were in needs improvement and warning, and they gave that to the classroom teacher and to the special education teacher, so they can really target where we see the kids are falling off, but also can help us inform our small group instruction. We just purchased CARS and STARS and CAMS and STAMs as an intervention, which is reading comprehension and then math problem solving. It comes with a benchmark, and that's what we're using for our MCAS intervention groups in the morning. We do that first thing in the morning. And then we scheduled a collaboration time between grade level staff and special education staff in response to our results. I think we always are meeting as a grade level team. And one of the things that we really spent a lot of time as a staff at a staff meeting is thinking about reevaluating our schedule and our service delivery, and really seeing, what students have for services and what they're getting pulled out in the regular ed classroom, and is that impacting them, and really looking critically, taking one student at a time. And then we're also thinking about the response to intervention. We're going to be reading What Really Matters as a book group, because teachers are interested in how we can systematically put that in place in our school for interventions for our kids. Because what we find is we want to get to those kids that are still struggling. So we're going to increase the subgroup student performance special education. That's the same goal that we're doing, and we'll continue the same goals in English language arts and in math. So CARS and STARS is mathematics, and CAMS and STAMs is English language arts comprehension. So here's our results in science and technology over the years. You can see our We started 54%, 60% last year, and then 55. So we know that there's some work we need to do. Unfortunately, our fifth grade teachers feel like they have to repeat all the units that have been done from second grade on, because we don't have that cyclical kind of curriculum that we have in everyday math and that we do in literacy, where it builds. So we have to really look critically at our science curriculum going forward and the tools we give our kids. So we'll continue to do inquiry projects where we integrate literacy and math and also writing into that. Fifth grade team has started to explore the use of science notebooks. They're trying to examine a model of integration between the balanced literacy and the science inquiry. And then we're looking at end of the unit summative assessments for that. So we'll continue to monitor our student progress and growth. We'll continue to maintain high expectations, take time to notice our successes, really pay attention to the standards, look for constant feedback, build trust and transparency in a shared vision, and support, encourage, listen, analyze, and so we can bring out the best in each other and also in our kids. But I have to say, this work, not my work, it's the work of the staff. They do yeoman's work, and this time of year, when MCAS is fast approaching, it's hard. They feel the pressure of being able to not have to do that drill and kill of MCAS and keep the integrity of our vision about kids and learning and that love of learning, but knowing we have to prepare them for MCAS. But I do think we're heading in the right direction. I think we have the right tools in the hands of our kids, and I think right now we're just kind of focusing on that subgroup. How can we help them? And I think we're getting there, and I think there's an urgency in the building to try and make sure. So we have an intervention block we do with our kids for math, and we're looking at other ways we can do interventions for them, other than the ones we already have in place.
Can I just ask that this book, What Really Matters, is that about response to intervention?
It kind of gives people a framework because
Textbook
right.
for response, okay,
Right.
great.
And so it's a textbook to kind of build knowledge, because we can't ask teachers to implement something if they don't have the background knowledge. So it kind of builds their knowledge.
There's a lot to it, so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I'll
I mean, that's
try to get that book
district
myself.
goal, so that's what,
Yeah.
that's what we're
I was
we're
just saying,
doing
it
that at the
aligns back
district
to-
level. Yeah,
Okay.
so
To that.
that's something that we're also, doing from the administrative level, because we do need to make sure we have a systemic
Absolutely, it's a-
approach. What Donna's talking about is a piece of it, which is the actual intervention. She's focusing on her intervention model,
Right.
doing something different and progress monitoring for those kids that she's identified.
Right.
It's a piece of the broad umbrella of the whole model of response
But
to
it's just one
intervention.
piece there.
Because that also involves driving resources, looking at your structure for who delivers the intervention. It's not enough just to identify the intervention. There's also
How
a
is
lot
that
to
going
it.
to be delivered? Okay.
That's right.
And what
On
resources
a regular.
And how do we deliver tier 1 and tier 2, and who does tier 3? So you'll be hearing a lot more about that, because that's a major strategic goal of ours that we're going to be working on over the next 3 years.
I think I'll get that book.
Yes. All right. Thank you,
Thanks for the
Donna.
information and all the data.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thank
Any
you, Donna.
questions?
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, both.
So next time we'll hear from the secondary guys. But we do have to do Peter's
Thank you,
program
Donna.
instead.
Yeah, and then we have to do Peter's program. It's nice to see that that lower level is shrinking. And that's good to see.
Yes, that's definitely great. It's the process of continuous improvement.
Alrighty,
Okay,
moving
so
right along.
the changes are minimal, so I'll just highlight them very briefly for you. In fine arts, we want to add a portfolio class. We really don't have anything for kids that are going to an art school that need to show their collection of work. And we've been meeting that need with an independent study course, so we want to kind of formalize that now, so we're proposing an art portfolio class. In business, we're actually shifting a course from the history department to the business department, principles of economics. It's a course that didn't draw very well in the social studies department, so we've kind of revamped it a little bit and made it more practical, hands-on kind of economics, but not sacrificing the philosophies of and the theories of economics. So we hope that will draw a little bit better in business, and it ties in better with our DECA program. So it gives kids more options to take business courses and be in DECA, because you have to have some business courses to be in DECA. You can't join it independently. Also, we're going to add a business elective, introduction to business. And when we moved the creativity course to a quarter course in economics, we cut this part of the course out, because the creativity course initially was creativity in innovation, and the innovation part was an introduction to business. So we want to continue to add that as its own elective. And again, you would be DECA eligible with that. A few things in wellness, just we no longer have foods program, so we're eliminating that course from the program of studies. We're adding to our theater arts program because I believe this is the third year of it now, so kids that are taking acting have kind of going through the gamut of the courses that we offer. So we want to, kind of like building a foreign language, we want to now add an intermediate acting class, and probably next year or the year after I'll be coming back with an advanced acting class. So that program is growing, and we want to provide opportunities for the kids that are learning about that more than 1 year in our school. Again in English, just a name change, and this is more the NCAA audits our courses all the time for eligibility, and they really give us a hard time about our SIN literacy course. So we want to get a name that is more reflective of what we actually do in there. And there's a lot of writing in that course. It's not just a course where you go and you watch film. You really write about it. Have you taken that course?
No, I haven't, but I have friends that take it, and they talk about how they watch a film and they just break it down. It's like breaking down literature, but it's just from a film.
Yeah. It's a really good course. As a matter of fact, I love all the courses in the school, but this is my favorite one when I observe. So, in math, we're just changing some prerequisites and kind of giving the teachers more flexibility. We use a lot of different indicators when we recommend for courses, but really the previous teacher knows best with the abilities of the child, so we want to give them more flexibility and a greater role in the recommendation process. So just to summarize all of those is a few prerequisite changes. In music, we want to offer a new elective. We've not had a great enrollment in some of our music electives, so we want to take advantage of some of the things that we bought with that grant that we won a couple years ago, and we're actually doing this now, so we want to kind of make it formal and have a guitar course, and it's working out very well right now with kind of a pilot course going on there, so we want to formalize that. And that's it.
Wow, exciting changes. There was just one question on the art portfolio. Is that something like Nora Cannon would, or an existing art teacher?
Yes.
Is gonna, I say that because that's the art teacher that comes to mind, but I'm sure there are more art teachers that are.
Martha Dodge actually
is
doing it right now.
But so there's an existing teacher that'll take this on and
Yeah,
take care of
yeah.
it.
So she has some students that are doing it at the same time she's teaching another course. So because it's independent study.
Will this replace the independent study, or is this just?
Yes,
like,
there won't. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So instead of taking independent study, you'll take this.
Peter, does Introduction to Business get involved at all with ethics?
I can't honestly answer that. I don't know. I'll get back to you
I
that.
was just curious.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's now showing up in all the business schools as a very all we gotta do is look at Wall Street, what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just one question. I couldn't help, we called it rhetoric of film, and it was one of the best classes I ever took. I remember that. Attaining cinema literacy. I think the title, it's almost art. You know, it's more than just cinema.
It's a great course, and Frank Goldberg's taught it for a long time. He does a great job with it.
It's a good one.
I wanted to take it, I just couldn't fit it into my schedule.
Any other questions, comments? We have to vote on this.
Yes.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the revised high school program of studies as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laura, do we need to vote on the mid-year?
School, you should vote on
Should-
those.
well, yeah,
For at least, well, you should vote on both
we're
of
gonna
them.
vote, we'll take
I-
two separate votes.
yeah.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the mid-year school improvement plan for the Pearly School as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the mid-year school improvement plan for the Pembroke School as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I heard 4 ayes, so I didn't say opposed. Let's see. Moving right along, superintendent's information for the committee. I just had a couple of comments on that. There's an updated vendor warrant schedule in here that I had Julie put in. Make sure you add this to your calendar. She sends a note out to everybody saying, come in and sign. But just check your calendar so that it's not a fire drill every time we have to get it signed. Because she has to get it to the town accountant by a certain time to get our bills paid. So if you look under superintendent's information for the committee,
Okay, yeah.
it's the updated vendor warrant schedule.
All right.
So if you could just add that to your calendars so that she'll send out the reminders, but I know sometimes it's been difficult to get people to sign.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea.
Payroll we don't have to worry about because Barbie takes care of that. The John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients, we had 27 students, which I think is just amazing.
Yeah.
Considering the graduating,
Great.
how big is your graduating class, Cole?
I think like 97.
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
most.
so
It's
almost a
tiny.
third, which
Yeah.
is really impressive. And Cole, if you noticed, was on the list as well.
Yes, I did notice. Yes,
So
congratulations.
congratulations
Thank
to you.
Thank you very much.
And there's an interesting summary put out by Sullivan, Nuttall, and McAvoy in here that you all should take a look at. Carol, was there anything else on that?
No, I think that's good.
Let's see. And we have line item transfers. So, the chair will entertain a motion to approve line item transfers numbered 154 through 190 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let me just send that over before I forget and it gets lost. School budget report, yeah,
That's just your monthly report.
this is just the monthly one. What's I just love is that the budget report aligns with this, so
Yes.
you can actually follow the account numbers on the left,
Yes,
and
it is a nice.
it works with her roll up. Now I just had one question. So the available balance is like 138,000.
We haven't put any special ed tuitions on circuit breaker yet.
Okay.
So we know that we have 290,000 in circuit breaker for FY13 committed from the state.
Okay.
Well, I haven't heard that they're not
I
going to fund
haven't
it.
heard that either. yeah.
And we still had 70,000 from last year.
Okay.
So we're okay.
Yep.
We're okay, and, we're just, Julie doesn't like to, I said, let's get them booked to it right away, and she said, no, I don't like to do that, I like to wait till the end of the year, so, but
Okay.
we watch it.
Okay.
so.
All right.
Do you look, when you look at this monthly report, do you go to a particular line item right away?
No, I look at all, I go
You-
through the whole
you Go
thing.
through the whole thing?
She just looks for anything that looks like it's in the minus. Or doesn't have much, most is expended.
Yeah.
I mean, salaries are all encumbered, so you're really only looking for the lines
Yeah,
that
it's
are
really, I
non-salary.
just go through and just look at the whole.
I
Anything
didn't know if there was any
outstanding,
inside.
Keep it-
outliers, and
Keep in mind that you just approved transfers that was almost $200,000, so that will, that hasn't
will
been
impact.
updated. Next month's report will show all those transfers. And the reason it was so high this month was because we transferred all the salaries that were going to the grant, and then I moved all the rest of the monies around.
So, I mean, one thing you can do is I usually look at the transfers and I look at this at the same time, understanding there's a lapse to see where the changes are going to be.
For example, if you looked at middle high school where the middle and high school aides are still budgeted in the middle high school, you'll see a balance of $89,000, right around $89,000, which is what I went back and, because we put them onto the grant, so I had to go back and take that 89,000 and fill in all my minuses everywhere,
right.
which you'll see next month. You won't see as
But
many.
the idea, the way the budget's prepared this year, we shouldn't have as many transfers
No.
next year because everything is
Right, I
budgeted
think
where it's
next
being
year it's gonna
spent.
be
Correct.
makes
It'll
a little
only
bit
be if
more
there's something
immediate sense. It's all
extraordinary.
understandable and explainable, but next year it'll be
Right.
more,
Right.
And then
more
something will
immediate
happen
sense.
that'll make it crazy.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but it should be much
Well,
more
Right, and at
streamlined.
least I'll understand it when I start,
Right.
July
That's
1st.
right,
Yes.
exactly.
All right.
That's
Budget and finance. Is there anything to talk about other than
We're meeting on Wednesday
Mhm.
to discuss the
the second
athletics.
half? Okay. Governance.
We discussed the policies that we just voted on,
That we're
for-
going to vote on, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
that we're going to vote on, sorry.
Okay.
For the international exchange students, the public complaints about school personnel, public complaints about, right, two of those, and public participation at school committee meetings. So that's what we've been talking about,
Okay.
discussing.
What do we have next? Negotiating. We're still working
Wrapping
with
up with
GISA.
GISA,
And teachers, we're still working on the.
Yes. Negotiations document. We're hoping that that will be able to come before the school committee in March.
Yep. The teacher evaluation language. That's what I was blanking
Oh, the
on,
other thing,
sorry.
Em, while you're on that topic, is I did speak to Joe today, and he was speaking to Teddy Winkler from MTA about getting a copy of the contract. If you recall,
Right.
you approved the tentative
Yep.
agreement for the teacher's contract. But I think there was some plan to include the entire evaluation document that we're currently negotiating in the body of that document. I think there's still a hope that that can be done, but we do have a need to have a signed contract in order to help our retirees that are going to retire. They have to
get
have
their
evidence that
benefits.
there's a signed contract in place. And we don't yet have a contract that has the signature. So today I asked Joe if he would speak to Teddy about getting all of us a copy of the contract.
Yeah.
So that you can read it through like a narrative, not
Helpful.
just the pieces for the tentative agreement.
Right.
And then we'll get the signatures, and we're hoping to do that the next meeting. So I know Teddy is working with Joe.
Yeah.
That can all get to us. We'll circulate it in the next for the next packet. And then on the 28th, hopefully, we'll be able to just get your signatures.
And will legal also have taken a look at that, or they're all set?
Well, Naomi works with us on it, it's all set.
Yeah.
That's all set.
It's all set.
Okay. Public relations.
We're going to meet, I believe, tomorrow morning.
Yes.
At 8:30, and we've been just basically discussing the budget and finance page on the website and the possibilities for a local cable access show with Beverly Enos regarding the budget.
Right. Safety.
We met this morning, and we discussed, we had code blue drills at the middle high school, and they all went very, very well.
At all the schools.
Okay.
At all the schools, yes, right. I think we discussed the other schools at a previous meeting. And then Chief Mulligan told us about the school resource officer that we now have deployed to the schools 5 days a week. And they're going to every school. And let's see, we have Detective Rodden, and we have Officer Sullivan and Officer Godot.
Right.
And that's working out very well.
right?
Yep.
Great people for it.
Yes. Highly skilled.
Okay, school, safety school building.
Pembroke, so February 19th is the building committee's vote to pass on 100% complete design development drawings to the MSBA. And then there's approximately a 2-week period of pricing coming back and fine-tuning those documents to finalize those documents before they would get kicked into construction documents. So after MSBA's approval, after that 2-week period early in March, enter into construction documents, and those construction documents go till August 5th. And then the big picture is starting construction in November of 2013 and occupying the building in September of 2015. And then Georgetown Middle High School, the feasibility study, so that's underway. And let's see, the dates for those that are worth noting. Feasibility study is planned for completion September 25th, 2013. And that's when the MSBA is going to basically give the okay to go into the schematic design phase. And let's see, scope and budgeting after the schematic design phase for that project is December 9th, still 2013. MSBA approval, the next big picture is MSBA approval is January 29th, 2014. And then that brings it to the town for a vote in May of 2014, and that's the Georgetown Middle High School.
Yeah.
Cool. Moving right along.
going on.
That's a lot. Okay, capital improvement submissions. So last time we talked, we weren't sure what was, we just needed some clarification. I wanted to give people time to figure out the capital submissions. So at this point,
You have them in here.
we have 3 that was included in the packet that Mike is going to put forth to the CIP pending our approval.
Were they meeting
They
when?
haven't got a meeting scheduled yet. They had a new member, but
Okay.
he hasn't, the last email we got was that they were gonna do it in front of the FinCom or something.
No,
But
I
I think
think-
it might change.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so we
think
don't
they're
know.
trying to
Let's
schedule a
just
meeting
keep-
for, yeah, trying to schedule a meeting.
All right, so we have the AC units for the high school, for the auditorium, a school intercom system, and a handicap ramp.
Yes.
Can I just ask that handicap ramp, where exactly is that?
At the high school,
In
right
front
in
of
the
the
front,
school,
You know
right
when
on
you
the
walk
left.
in, it's all ripped up? It's
To the
all-
left.
Oh.
Is that from the
It's
parking lot?
replacing
the brick.
Point
No,
has
no,
a tree right in
no.
the middle of it.
Yeah, it's right-
the bit. It's the
Right to the left of the doors.
Yeah,
Oh, that,
that,
okay,
yeah.
okay, all right, I was just wondering,
Yeah.
because
It's
those
not in good
steps
shape.
going up to the, yeah, from the parking lot are not in good shape either.
No.
Carol, is that 30, do you know if that 38,000 is, I'm assuming that's bringing the whole thing up to code?
You mean the ramp? Yes. Yes, it would have to be code. It's really a mess right now. Have you seen it?
No, I had, yeah.
And I worry when we're wheeling someone out that it's just very difficult to navigate.
Right.
Seems like a low number.
Yeah, you know, I don't have a good vantage point on that, Rob, so I'm not, do you know?
No, I don't. But I know that Mike called the contractor to get an estimate before he put forward that number, so I would hope that,
We can verify that it would be up to code. I can't imagine we would do
Oh,
anything that
no,
wouldn't be.
it would have to be.
When you
Have to
do
be
a
inspected.
renovation, typically you have, when you
It has to go to the new
do
code.
it, you have
yeah.
to bring it to the current code.
Yeah,
I
but
have
it's a
no
good
idea if the
It's a good
number
question.
is-
We need to make sure, but I don't know, again, I wouldn't have a good idea if 38,000 was a good price or not. So I'm assuming that, Mike, because he got the estimate from a contractor.
Yeah.
Pretty right on.
So the first priority, actually, competing first priorities are the handicap ramp and the school intercom. Second is the AC unit.
I don't think that's how Mike views it. We had issues with the auditorium Sunday.
That's huge.
Okay.
We had emergency repairs Sunday
Yeah,
morning, so the
I
plate
know,
could
that
go
was-
off.
Yep.
I think
What kind
Mike's,
of repairs?
the HVAC wasn't working.
Doesn't work.
So I think Mike's number one priority is is the auditorium.
All right, so I'm gonna make that number
And-
one.
And I can tell you that the school will make the priority the intercom. So
So as a-
they're
we're-
all very important. The intercom, they can't run the intercom system.
And we don't know how much the intercom system is, right?
Well,
We know for that, for this school.
Oh, we're saying 52. It doesn't say a
52.
number at the top.
Right.
Okay.
now that's another thing that is probably gonna be looked at as part of this town-wide IT
Okay.
situation. So there may be some finance.
So is it safe to say that you would have two competing priorities, the AC unit and the intercom system, and then second would be the handicap ramp?
Does,
I think the handicap ramp is pretty
I
important.
don't know. I think
don't-
these are all really important.
Yeah. So
let me ask, on the handicap ramp and experiencing it every day or getting feedback, does it hold anyone back? Is it functioning?
I think it is functioning, Rob. It's just that
Okay.
it's torn up.
It's all the yeah, no.
It's torn up.
You can't just I don't think you can repair.
No,
it.
you have to
you
replace
can't.
it.
You have
No,
to
you-
dig it
you
up
do.
and get it to
Right.
current code.
I guess if anybody has, I guess where I'm going with that is that if an individual has, if it is an impediment, whatever,
right.
then that for me
That should be number one.
goes number one.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we submit them all three as one?
They're just all high priority.
They're all
They're all
high
high
priority.
priorities, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The chair will
Alright.
entertain a motion to present, to authorize Mike do we have to vote? Yeah. To authorize Mike Anderson to present the CIP request as presented with all as priority one items.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving right along to the acceptance of donations. The first donations come from the Merrimack Santa Parade Committee and the VFW Post 29. Both of these were for 2012 Christmas parades that our band participated in.
Great.
Um,
That's nice.
So yeah, it's pretty neat, and I think the kids all have a great time and look forward to doing it every
They
year. And
represent us well.
2,700.
yes, and they make some nice money. That goes back into the band account to do what they need to do. So Chair will entertain a motion to accept the $1,300 donation from the Merrimack Santa Parade Committee with gratitude.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the $1,400 donation from the Haverhill VFW Post 29 with gratitude as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next up is the distribution of the new policy file JS for international exchange students. So you're getting it, you have to read it, and then we'll, we have a couple readings and then.
Yeah, this is a new policy.
So this is just a new one. Next up is the approval of revised policy file KEB, public complaints about school personnel. So Chair will entertain a motion to approve the revised policy KEB, school, public complaints about school personnel.
And you see the current policy and the changes are highlighted, so you can see exactly what was
Second.
different.
We have a first and.
I did so.
Oh, you did, okay, sorry, I
She
just
did a
said
so
second.
moved and
Any
Pam
further
seconded.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, Laura put in the new and the old policies, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve revised policy KEB-R, public complaints about school personnel.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up, I love how this is written.
What is it?
Which is BEDH, public comment is, and public
Oh, yeah.
comment is not. No, I really like how that's, I appreciate all the time you put into that. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the revised policy BEDH, public participation at school committee meetings, as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a question on public comment is, what about asking questions?
Oh, let's just see.
What do you mean?
Like, it's an opportunity to ask
Well,
questions, you mean?
when I read this, and it implies to me they can express an opinion, but that you're not allowed to ask questions.
Well, let's think about that. So if someone were to come to a meeting and they wanted, you mean just they had a question they wanted to ask, it would have to be something on the agenda.
Yeah.
So generally, people come to make a statement or about something on the agenda. Doesn't mean they can't ask questions
Yeah.
as part of that.
They can, but it's their time to express their opinion. We don't have,
Well,
we do not get into a discussion or debate or dialogue at
Right.
that time.
Right.
There's
And I-
another.
So let's just see, Rob. What
Yeah.
would you? Are you making a suggestion?
Well, it
Intended-
says
Something
right
you'd like
here
to
that
see?
may answer or request an answer to a question. The chair as presiding officer of the meeting may answer or request an answer to a question. So, see that under that where it says public comment is not,
Yep.
Yeah.
next paragraph.
I see it there, and I
not
read it there,
respond.
but when I see the way this is written, public
It is
comment
an issue
is,
requiring
and it's
a rundown.
bold, and it's underlined, and public comment is not, and it's
Yeah,
bold, and it's underlined. Those tend to take priority for me, and if you all are comfortable with that, it's clear to the public that they can ask questions, then I'm fine with it. When I read this quite like this, and I didn't notice it before, but I did. It's not clear.
Well, I think that paragraph underneath that, where it says a citizen comment or question is posed, that's saying that that's okay to do.
Mhm.
But then it's upon the chair's discretion as to whether or not it would be answered, or if he or she deems fit to have it go beyond what we have access to, then it would go to that appropriate person to answer.
Right,
That makes sense.
I think it's really public comment. Generally, it's a question isn't a comment. We teach the kids that all the time. We'll say to them, you need a question, not a comment, because they like to make comments. So I think that's the intention, is it's a public comment period.
Because it's not the time
Right, it's
to
not the
come
time
in
to
for a
seek
debate.
information, exactly.
Right.
I mean, if
We have
if a
channels
question
for that.
arises, that's
Can't-
something, but
Again,
that would not
through
be the
chair,
primary
get-
purpose of somebody making a public comment.
I think it's clear public comment is not a discussion, a debate, a dialogue.
Mhm.
And I love the clarity, just the way Ann does too, with the way that's written.
Answer or
I've
request
expressed
an
myself.
answer.
If you all are comfortable with that, if I'm a citizen, that I feel comfortable being able to come here and ask a question, then it's okay.
Mhm. And I think it's written in
Yeah.
the second paragraph.
Then
Yeah, I
it's
think
okay.
that Barbie explained that.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's see. I had two things just at the end. Everyone should know we have 4 meetings scheduled in March to go through the budget. We have one meeting 2 weeks from today, which is going through the second half of the budget. March 7th is our public hearing at 6:45, and then our regular meeting at 7, which will adopt the budget. Then we have our regular meeting on the 14th, regular meeting on the 28th, and then on the 20th we have our budget presentation to FinCom. And like we said at the last meeting, I don't know if we said it enough tonight, but we encourage the public to attend the meetings, to ask questions about the budget. This is the time that we go through the budget, so we want you to ask questions. And the way to do that is to funnel them through budget and finance, or to Carol, or to myself. And then finally, the town election this year is going to be combined with a special state primary, which is going to be held on Tuesday, April 30th, 2013. And there is one seat open on the school committee, as well as several other elected seats in town, including selectman, town clerk, moderator, highway surveyor, assessor, water commissioner, light commissioner, Peabody library trustee, and 2 terms for the planning board and housing authority, 1 position each. Papers are now available at town hall. The last day to pull and return papers is Tuesday, March 12th. Last day to register to vote is Wednesday, April 10th.
And we just have to go back and accept the homeschool
Oh,
plan.
sorry. Yes. I forgot that one.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, you know what? Oh. What did I do? All right, well, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the updated schedule of homeschool families as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we don't need an executive session?
and I wonder if I could just have a very brief, when it came up today, that I'd like to talk, it would be negotiations with non-union personnel.
Yeah,
If,
we
and
will.
we were talking really a short one, but I do think it's time sensitive.
So
It won't come
we're
back.
going to go into executive session. We're not coming back into regular session. So this will be roll call.
Before we go into executive sessions, scheduling a transition meeting, can we do that now or later, or it doesn't matter?
I think probably after the
After,
meeting.
and I have about 5 minutes. So Chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session for Chapter 30A, Paragraph 21, Section 3, for the purposes of negotiating with non-union personnel. Roll call. Oh,
Yes.
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 All right.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you.
I
Joan,
can't
you-
be
I need
at
Joan to stay.
the next meeting, the 28th. I'll be in States
Oh,
for
yes,
singing for the chorus. So,
good luck.
Joy.
Good luck with that.
so
Joy.
I think I'll ask another student council member to come and.
Connor usually
All right.
helps you, I mean, that,
Okay.
Cameron,
Yeah.
Cameron, Connor's a
All right,
brother.
great. Thank you. Can you just
All right.
knock on the door and